Monark got announced at the right place at the right time. While we were starving for news about the then upcoming Shin Megami Tensei 5 during the summer of 2021, Furyu hit us with the news that an alleged Shin Megami Tensei IF spiritual successor from former SMT IF staff was in the works. Cool. Developed by the Lost Dimension dudes? Double cool. Lost Dimension kinda owns. Honestly, if I was to think about it, that's probably one of the earliest recorded instances of Furyu delivered Cullencore. Played that on Vita a ton back in the day, in the before time. If you recall the Caligula 2 video from a few months back, I love me some budget jank with some Furyu funded soul. But what about that Monark game? Came out a few months ago. How'd that end up?
Once again, let me in. I need to remind you to play beneath the disclaimer clip. You cannot escape this. Every time you play a Furyu game, I will be here. Lock your door all you want. I will find my way. Don't kill the part of you that is cringe. Kill the part of you that cringes.
Oh yeah, also minor spoiler warning, I guess, if you really care about gameplay footage used out of context. Just gotta cover my ass. Alright, thanks, enjoy! I really wish I liked this game more, man. I'm the Caligula 2 guy and everything. You'd figure it'd be right up my alley, yeah? Hate to say, gameplay drags and the story just wasn't really up to snuff to make up for the rest of it. Not to mention, there's some simply baffling thematic fumbling on display that's both as a result of, and an accompaniment to some yikes. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Monark is the story, not of a group of students whose school is quarantined out of reality, but of a man named Fuyuki Hayashi. That's right, we're visiting the context zone. While I have not played it myself, Hayashi is notable for directing another Furyu game called Crystar. From my research, he has no direct connection with Atlas, but he's a really big Shin Megami Tensei IF fan. And when given the chance to make a new game during the pandemic, he wanted to make a game just like that one. And I'm not the biggest SMT IF guy, but I respect it. God knows if I ever got the chance to make a video game, I'd make it just like my childhood favorite. Hayashi managed to bring on two people who worked on SMT IF though. Kazunari Suzuki, one of the original Megami Tensei writers, who served as Monarch's plot supervisor, and Ryutaro Ito, another Megaten writer and a planner of IF, who wrote all the NPC dialogue. Let's put a pin in that for later. However, when it came to Monarch's main writer, that's Hayashi himself. Now, let this be known, I'm not bringing this up to throw any shade at Hayashi or to paint the game in a bad light. Mainly, I'm just doing this to clarify the misconception that Monarch was the SMT IF dream team brought back together again. Outside of the overall premise and focus on the deadly sins, there isn't that much similarity between the two. So pretty much I'm getting all this out of the way now just so I don't have to spend so much time comparing this game to IF, because that would make for a really boring video. I'm more interested on how this game stands out on its own. Well, there's a horny stat. Wait, hold on, what do you mean I have gains in it? This is slander. I am the least horny person I know. Hottest rendition of adult. More attractive, beautiful, very handsome. It's unfathomably attractive. That's not me, that's someone else. Someone with really good taste. The player character is the silent webtagonist of the week. Who am I? It's your boy, Cullen Bimblo, the pretentious Skrunklo, who wakes up with amnesia in a school separated from the outside world by mystery daemon magic. I know that you're just supposed to pronounce it demon, but it's spelled that way, and I always thought it was funnier to do it this way, so shut up. The school is slowly being overrun by daemons and mist, who feed into one another parasitically. The situation is made worse by a select few residents of the school with strong capital E egos, ones who made pacts with super daemons that represent specific deadly sins, taking hold of certain parts of the school and the students that inhabit them. You're quickly dragged into joining the True Student Council, who decide to investigate the matters themselves. From here on, Monark falls into a bit of a pattern. You establish a new building or a secret part of that building, meet or check up on relevant characters for the arc, locate the big bad, jog, puzzle, battle, repeat exactly twice, and then move on. There are some interesting, albeit surface level, ways Monark allows the player to engage with its story, like having both acts chapters be playable in any order. But it's hard to not feel as if this doesn't really matter when your playthrough kind of just blends into a repetitive amalgamation of oh my god, dude, go faster! And if that isn't just Monark in a nutshell, great ideas in the outset, dragged out or deflated into mediocrity. Or just god awfulness. Like the combat, which was fun early on. You got your turn-based SRPG gameplay with the grids replaced with free-range movement with the big circle, units with unique skills, and a steep difficulty curve. There's a really fun progression system too, where you gain a level each time you unlock or upgrade a skill regardless of its cost. Since each level up gets you a stat boost, there's a fun dilemma when building your characters where you have to decide on the fly whether you'd rather have big numbers or big skill pool. Despite my issues, there are some cool ideas here, like resonance, which makes it so that you and a group of allies or even enemies share buffs, skills, and status effects or debuffs. There's a high-risk, high-reward gameplay system that emerges from this mechanic, making it fun to chain stackable buffs and turn yourselves into glass cannons trying to kill enemies as fast as possible. Granted, the game encourages that because that's how you get higher mission scores and more fun bucks to level up your characters. Unfortunately, this leads to an obviously dominant strategy that causes combat to stop being fun. Yeah, that's right, we've left the context zone, driven way past the intro zone, and are now in the griping zone. Do you like skeletons? Like, really like skeletons? Like, want to see them every waking moment? See them next to you when you wake up in the morning? Well, luckily for you, Undertale is right there, and they're still accepting kinnies, I think, so maybe send Toby Fox your application. But hey, if you don't get approved, there's always Monark, where every enemy besides bosses are just about 3 different variants of skeletons. It gets old fast, and made worse by a dull palette of maps that are pretty much almost always the exact same thing but a different color. I feel like Monarch's school hallways and classrooms also reuse a bit of assets, but they at least try to disperse the tedium there with puzzles and bits of lore. By the way, expect to do a lot of reading. Not necessarily a flaw, but it's worth mentioning most of the story is found within journals. Its battles don't get the luxury of distraction though, outside of whatever hours-long video essay you find yourself needing to put on in the background while you play, which you will need. Because, judging by the experience of myself and the 2 wonderful people on my Patreon Discord server who played it alongside me, this is a very grinding-heavy game. It really would have been nice if all of the systems were balanced around the difficulty in the slightest. I feel like there's this unspoken rule when it comes to good SRPGs. They need to offer you enough of a challenge to test your tactical might, but not too much in which they stop being fun. Players should feel this high of satisfaction whenever they finish a mission, perhaps sometimes just by the skin of their teeth. The feeling that while this fight seems really difficult, if I use my own wits, I can just manage to get by. That's why I keep coming back to the genre. Grinding shouldn't be required, but it should be freely available to players who need the extra help, because accessibility is cool and not everyone plays games the same way. Well, Monark missed one part of the memo. Grinding is super accessible, because you basically need to grind a whole lot to even stand a chance in most encounters. How much did I have to grind, you ask? I lost track after hour 10. And no, that's not hour 10 of my playthrough. That's hour 10 of the grind. Without these awkward difficulty spikes where they just crank numbers up, Monark would be a decently short game, so I think it might have even been intentional. Fights aren't fun, they're tedious. There's also no option to change your difficulty setting. There's a casual mode toggle, which barely felt like it helped most of the time. Kinda nuts to be missing such obvious quality of life in modern year. It's pretty maddening, which, speaking of that, your mental health is a gameplay mechanic, which But honestly, it's so inconsequential that it's not even worth having that discussion. In combat, using certain abilities will increase your madness, and if you aren't careful and spam powerful skills or buffs, your character will go crazy and start attacking everyone. It's honestly annoying to keep up with. It feels like it exists to drag fights out even more. Madness can increase on the field too, typically in the mist dungeons by getting yelled at until you game over when it caps out. What else to say about the gameplay? Psych tests are cool, I guess, and that's it. Well, let's wrap this up. I actually like the main cast.
Oh, you like cereal bars? For real? You like those dry, nasty things?
Hey, fuck you, man.
Enjoy your junk food
Wait a
while you're
second.
young. Enjoy your
Hold
good
on.
appetite and your working taste
Ah,
buds.
fuck, this dude's just me.
And most importantly, your high metabolism.
I stare into the abyss of my future 30s and the abyss stares back. They're interesting and have fun dynamics with each other. Games practically fully voiced in English and Japanese too, which is rare for a new IP like this. I think the dub is charming and did a lot to keep me pushing through. The characters and their voices, both from an acting perspective and like a writing perspective, are probably the best parts of the story, but I wish that story did a better job supporting them, like, at all. With all these interesting philosophical concepts packaged for a new generation, I was hoping it'd bring something new to the table, something new to say. Instead, I found the story predictable, which probably could have been avoided if the whole game wasn't so... Predictable, I can deal with. Predictable can be comfy. You know what else is predictable? Your partner bringing you a blanket on a cold night. And that's like the comfiest shit ever. Monark's flavor of predictability is how it uses edge for shock value. I'll say it now. I like edge. Edge can be good. A healthy amount of it can provide a nice texture to a work. Some of my favorite pieces of media are edgy. Everyone dunks on Shadow the Hedgehog, and that's the best Sonic game. Monarch's edge just felt hollow. Just kind of there. It's dull edge. You know, like a butter knife. Like butter on toast. Tastes good in the moment, but eat too much of it. All in all, there is nothing creative done with the edge, and it's nothing I hadn't seen before. Monark puts a lot of focus into sympathizing and understanding its antagonists, and you'll get a look into their thoughts and learn about the events that push them to do all the horrible things they do in their chapters. There's a thematic through line that discusses how ostracizing people for not falling in line or being victims of broken systems can more or less lead to radicalization. But that theme's kind of thrown in the garbage a little bit when the writers felt the need to take a jab at the expense of a trans side character for no reason. The game has a system where by meeting certain stat requirements, you can unlock the backstory of the NPCs. So yeah, content warning, misgendering, and transphobia. You can skip to this point in the video if you don't want to see it. If you do so for a character named Perrine, you get this really messed up bio entry. I'm not going to read it out loud, and I don't want to ask anyone to read it out loud either, so I'm just gonna show it on the screen. I'm not going to bother explaining to you all why transphobia is bad because that would imply there's a debate to be had, and there isn't. Grow up. Outside of this being a pretty shitty thing to include in the story, I just think it kinda disregards all the complex themes about mutual understanding and mindfulness about mental health issues as a product of systematic failings, when the writers are willing to make exceptions. Here, says Monark, these murderers are victims of society worthy of sympathy and understanding.
Unlike trans people, we can make fun of them.
It's juvenile, unfunny, and a bad out-of-place joke. Hey, remember when I asked you to put a pin in something earlier? What was that about again? This soured me on a story that was already poorly paced, not very creative, and kind of oddly condescending at points to an audience it claimed to uplift. And yes, it's totally possible to look past inconsistent or fumbled theming in a game if there's enough surrounding it to ensure you have a fun time. And if you could in this instance, more power to you. But I couldn't this time. Plain and simple, Monarch didn't work for me. Not as jank cullen Kinocore a la Caligula 2, or as a problematic fave with a lot to say a la Chaos Head. This was one of my more anticipated games of the year, so the combination of meandering gameplay, poor balancing forcing players to grind for hours on end, repetitive structure, transphobia, and a weak story, well, it left me disappointed. This game is not fun to play, and the story isn't nearly as smart as it thinks it is. I loved the music and character art, which sucks because that's not really enough to carry an entire ass video game. Hey, what are you doing out here? Get your ass back to the video schedule backlog. We're not ready for you yet. I don't know what else to say. Monark is a missed opportunity whose faults come from it stepping on its own toes. You hate to see it, but Furyu can't hit every time. I'm not even gonna give it a score, not out of spite, but just because I'm trying to move away from numbered scoring if I do these kind of review-like videos again. I'm not your dad, so you can make your own decision based on the review itself. TLDR though, I don't recommend Monark. Go play Caligula 2 instead if you want some soul. It's coming to PC soon, so that's pretty cool. Bye-bye. Hey there, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Thank you, and also sorry I guess, to NIS America for sending me a review copy of the game. And as always, thank you to @SupremeZerker on Twitter for helping me edit the script. But the most important thanks to give is to our lovely patrons. If you don't know, the channel is supported via Patreon. Those who pledge get 3-day early video access across all of the tiers, be able to vote on video polls, and also see behind the scenes content, early video scripts, commentaries, and maybe even a vocal shout out at the end of videos. If any of that interests you, check out the link in the description to learn more. The Metal Royal Slimes for this month are Alex Austin, Autumn Jennings, Courtney Littleton, Enoravan, Furion's Nipples, Happy Emmons, Hornkerling, Frozen Ace, Jeremy DeForest, Moon Watcher, Renteka Bond, Snigs, Wayne is Boss, and your friend Chuck. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.